What was so special about May 17? Nothing at all. It wasn't my wife's birthday, our anniversary, or even the day we first met. It was just an ordinary Tuesday, and that's precisely why I picked it. I'm Keith, and after 12 years of marriage to Mia, things have started to feel a bit stale, or perhaps predictable. It's not that I don't love her. She and the children mean the world to me. But lately, the sparkle that used to light up her eyes when I mentioned making love seemed to have faded. As the hopeless romantic I am, I resolved to give her an evening she would never forget. Monday morning at work, I enlisted the help of Katie, Cheryl, and Karen, three of the most attractive single women at the office. Okay, ladies, if you could write the script for the most romantic night of your life, what would it be? I asked them. Around midnight, they started dreaming up scenarios like zipping off to Paris, making love in a gondola in Venice, or watching the sunset from a hot tub over the Swiss Alps. Easy girls, I told them. I'm more thinking about a romantic night at home or in one of the hotels in the city center, something that won't break my bank account. By midday, they had come back with a list of affordable ideas. I thanked them, treated them to lunch, and began making plans. They seemed almost as excited as I was, jumping up and down, telling me that I better not fail, because now they had a bet on how my evening would end. The first thing I did was take Wednesday afternoon off to get everything done before she returned. Normally, I arrived home around 6, but Maya was always back by 3:30 to greet the kids as they got off the school bus. On Tuesday night, I informed Mia, my parents want to take the kids to dinner and a show on Wednesday, so they probably won't get home until 8 o'clock in the evening. The kids were even more thrilled when I added, I have a surprise for your mom, and you'll actually spend the night with your grandparents. My parents always spoiled them terribly. I left work around 11:30 on Wednesday, carrying my trusty list. First, some free time with the children and their mothers. Then, a trip to the store. I needed a sweet card, tons of good chocolate, and her favorite wine. The girls had given me a detailed list of everything that needed to be done, including the lighting and music to set the mood. When I asked the flower girl for 2 pounds of pink petals, she looked at me strangely. But once I explained my plans, she said, you must love your wife very much if you went to all this trouble for her. As I departed with the red rose petals in my hand, I secured a reservation for 8 at Mia's favorite steakhouse. Anticipating that we'd be hungry by 8, I thought it wise to have a backup plan. If we decided to cancel dinner, I'd ensure we had steaks in the fridge to grill on the patio. At last, everything started to fall into place. I got back home, concealed the car behind the house, and carried everything into the kitchen. Let's see, 2:30, that gives me an hour to get everything ready, I told myself. Over the next hour, I froze the wine in the freezer and arranged a huge heart on the bed with rose petals. In the center, I used chocolate chips to spell out I love you. I filled the garden tub with water and scattered the remaining rose petals over the bubbling surface. On my side of the bed, I set the wine in an ice bucket, and on her nightstand, I placed a card next to the reading light. I dimmed the overhead light, opened a bottle of wine, and poured 2 glasses. I put our portable CD player on the dresser, planning to turn it on once she entered the bedroom. The last thing I did was take a shower, shave, and strip naked. At precisely 3:25, I heard her car arrive. I was fully prepared. I shut the bedroom door, stood at the foot of the bed, naked, holding 2 glasses of wine, and waited for her to come upstairs. I heard muffled laughter and what sounded like a group of horses ascending the stairs as they burst through the bedroom door. Yes, I said they, Mia and her boss, Paul. Do you know how long 4.75 seconds are? It's like one huge sigh when your eyes meet hers, or 3 heartbreaks. But it's enough time to kill the romantic mood and destroy a marriage. When Mia ran into our bedroom, it took her brain 1.5 seconds to register that something had changed. Her shirt was unbuttoned, and her bra had already been removed. Her brain then sent an impulse to her voice box, which took approximately 2.0 seconds for her to utter the words, my God. And finally, it took 1.25 seconds for her to realize she was fooled, so to speak. If this wasn't the world record for breaking up a marriage, it should have been at least second. Paul, seeing what was happening, turned around and ran to the front door, disappearing in less than 45 seconds. Meanwhile, I watched as Maya began to cry and fell to her knees. I poured the contents of both glasses onto the bed, then went to the closet and started getting dressed. All the while, Maya kept telling me how sorry she was and how much she loved me. It took me about 5 minutes to get dressed and tell her, "It's in your best interest to leave before I return." I then went downstairs, got into the car, and drove to the nearest place where I could get a drink. So I'm sitting at Tony's, finishing my fourth beer, pondering what my next move should be. At 6:30, I went back to my now quiet and empty house. The front door was unlocked, and Maya's car was nowhere in sight. After quickly using the bathroom downstairs, I made my way to our bedroom. Everything was almost exactly as I had left it. The garden bath was still running, and the wine, the card, and the chocolate were all there, untouched. Mia's closet stood open, along with several dresser drawers. I settled on the bed, attempting to organize my thoughts. Just then, my cell phone rang. Not feeling up to a conversation, I turned it off without answering. I know I have to replace the mattress in the guest room, I reminded myself upon waking the next morning. After showering, shaving, and getting ready, I headed to work. However, during my commute to the office, I felt and appeared more like a zombie. "Well, how did it go?" All three girls shouted as they burst into my office. "Judging by the way you look, it must have been one hell of a night," Karen giggled, nudging the other two. "That's how it was," I replied, giving them a brief rundown of the previous night. "Bitch," Katie said too loudly. "What are you going to do?" Cheryl asked. "Survive and take care of my children," I muttered. "So if you don't mind, please keep quiet about it. I don't want to be the laughingstock of the whole office," I told them. They left, expressing their sympathy and offering their support if I ever needed someone to talk to. I thanked them and closed the office door. By 9:30 a.m., I had closed or changed all bank accounts, credit cards, life insurance policies, and the 401k. Afterward, I called my parents and informed them that Mia and I were experiencing some difficulties, and I asked if they could take care of the kids until the weekend. They were saddened by the news, but gladly agreed to watch the children. When I checked my cell phone, I saw 20 messages from Mia and promptly deleted them all. The lawyer referred me to another lawyer who had a good reputation and charged a reasonable fee, so I scheduled an appointment for Friday morning. Spending 2 hours with a divorce lawyer can really open your eyes to just how complicated your situation is, as they go over your options, or the lack thereof. It came down to your word against hers. Mia and Paul hadn't actually done anything when you caught them. Plus, you couldn't force her out of the house since it belonged to both of you. What really pissed me off was knowing she would probably get custody of the kids, the house, and at least 40% of my post-tax earnings. They fooled me and didn't even kiss me. He suggested marriage counseling or at least a 90-day cooling-off period before I took any action. "Look, Keith, no matter what you do, you'll be paying child support for the next 8 years at least, plus house payments. The only thing you can do is bide your time and try to minimize your losses. Look, if it were me, I'd move into the spare bedroom and make life at home as easy as possible for your kids," he advised. I left early and relocated all my junk into the spare bedroom. I purchased a new mattress and discarded the old one by placing it on the curb. I ignored Maya's calls. However, I anticipated that she would eventually come to the house, so I did my best to prepare for the encounter. "Maybe tomorrow," I said, closing and locking the door. I heard a muffled scream as she looked around what used to be our bedroom. I heard sheets being pulled off the bed and other noises as I imagined her trying to tidy up the room. On Saturday morning, I saw a card, rose petals, and chocolates in the trash bin, along with an empty bottle of wine. The children had their breakfast and went about their usual Saturday activities, hanging out with friends and playing football. I didn't feel particularly hungry, so I just made myself some coffee. Maya came downstairs just as I was finishing my first cup. I poured another cup, grabbed the newspaper, and stepped out onto the deck. Then Maya ran into the house, and I finished my coffee and tore the newspaper in a rage. The next 2 weeks at work were tough, but not as challenging as my home life. Word had gotten out at the office, and now every time I walked by, I received pitying looks from all the women there. My boss approached me, asking if I needed personal time off. I assured him, "I'm managing it and I need this job to keep me sane." From the very beginning, the children sensed that something was amiss and asked if they had done anything wrong. "Your mother and I are going through a difficult period, but everything is fine. Believe me," I reassured them, though it was far from the truth. Maya made efforts to get me to open up and even attempted to seduce me once, but I no longer felt anything for her. I felt worse than well shit when Cheryl walked into my office Thursday just before 5. "Get your coat, we're leaving," she announced. I looked up to say something, but she cut me off. Maybe you don't understand. This is not a request. Grab your damn coat. We're leaving here, she repeated. When Cheryl and I arrived at Anthony's, we spotted Katie and Karen, two more members of the formidable trio, sitting at a table in the corner. After ordering a drink, Cheryl immediately started in on me. You need to come to your senses, Heath, she began. You've been walking around like dead for the last 2 weeks. And even though everyone has your back, you're gonna be in deep shit if you don't tie your head and ass together. Get off, crap. You're not talking to Mia. Karen responded. What the hell do you want, Keith? Or are you going to wallow in self-pity for the rest of your life? I want everything to be like it was before this mess happened, I said, staring at my glass. I thought you said your marriage was stale and you wanted to revive it, Katie questioned. Do you really want to return to your boring life? Do you love her? Let's eat and then we'll figure it out, Cheryl said, calling the waiter. The first thing we need to do is level the playing field. Maya is still in your house and returns to work every day. Paul, on the other hand, goes home to his loving wife and children, even though he ruined your marriage, Cheryl spat. It's time for you to get your life back. By the end of the evening, I felt better, and they were right. I had to do something. I couldn't let this go on. It tore me apart. When I got home, Maya wanted to know where I had been. So what do you care about? I shouted as she went into her bedroom crying. The following day, I met with my lawyer, Paul. I thought you were going to wait for a divorce, he asked. Yes, I want to sue the company that Paul and Maya work for and then hit Paul with an alienation of love lawsuit, I replied. Look, Keith, you don't have hard evidence, I told you so. I know, but they work for a public company, and with all the crap in the news lately about corporate mismanagement, I don't think they'd want bad press. Also, even though Maya wasn't at work, don't most managers work until 5? Corporate bylaws have a morality clause when a married boss has sex with a married employee he supervises, especially during working hours, I explained. Paul mentioned it would take a couple of days for everything to be finalized and the papers filed. However, he assured me that he would inform me when things got underway. Over the next 3 days, I reverted to being the old Keith. I joked with people at work, enjoyed time with the kids, and even resumed talking to Mia, which made her life a bit easier. On Thursday, Paul called to inform me that their company had been served. I requested him to hold off on dealing with Paul's papers until we could reach an agreement with their company. By the next Tuesday, Paul and I found ourselves seated in a conference room, facing the CEO and his manager. We have reviewed the documents, and it appears that you forgot to include any documents about the alleged incident, the manager began. He then made a remark about frivolous lawsuits and was quite surprised when I stood up and headed out. I guess we'll see you in court then, I said, rising from my chair. You know, we'll take testimony from all office employees, I added calmly. How many of them do you think knew what was going on? All I have to do is find 1 or 2, I pointed out. How many managers do you think will defend Paul when their backs are on the line? Good luck, gentlemen, I concluded, walking out with Paul. Well, I asked for $250,000 in attorney fees and for them both to be transferred to other state offices. That should cover everything, I replied. Tell them the offer is valid until noon Thursday, and then we'll move on. That afternoon, Paul reached out to me once more. They agreed to the fees and transfers, but they are offering $150,000, he informed me. Paul, stop haggling. Tell them the price is now $300,000. And if they come back with another counteroffer, the price will rise to $400,000. Maybe this will end everything. On Thursday at 3:30, Paul called to inform me that my offer had been accepted and that he would provide the forms for me to sign within 5 hours. True to his word, the package arrived at my office at 4:30. This man said that they were waiting for him. The secretary informed me. After reviewing the documents and the attached check, I signed the papers and handed them back. If someone is looking for me, then I'm gone for the whole day, I told her as I left the office. In the car on the way home, I quickly called Paul. Serve Paul tonight and do it at his house. I was over the moon. By tomorrow, I would have a pound of flesh, and I could move on with my life. Walking through the door, I announced, Okay, that's it. Grab your coat because we're going out to dinner tonight. Maya looked at me and did not move as I continued. Come on, Maya, you too. A wide smile appeared on her face as she ran for her coat. Over dinner, we talked and laughed just like we had for the past 12 years. Life felt good again, almost perfect. When we got home, Everyone thanked me for a wonderful evening and headed to their rooms. Mina came closer, kissed me on the cheek, and thanked me for the evening. It meant a lot to me tonight, she said. I told her that we would have a nice long talk tomorrow night, so she needed to get some sleep. Tenant, New Jersey, wherever the hell that is, she explained. It seemed like my services were no longer needed here and that it was either New Jersey or I was out of work. I told them there was no way they would transfer me there. And then they gave me severance pay and gave me 20 minutes to clean the table, she sobbed. I gave them 8 years, and in 20 minutes I was out the door, she added, sitting on a kitchen chair and continuing to sob. Well, Naya, this is how the next phase will go, I continued, pulling up my chair. If you want to be part of this family, here are the conditions. First, you need to be examined for sexually transmitted diseases and bring me a certificate of health. Then, you will take a polygraph test, and to help you, I will even provide all the questions in advance, I said, holding the paper across the table. As you can see, they start out very easy, but become increasingly difficult as you go down the list. By the time she reached the last group, she began to cry. Am I the biological father of my 2 children? Why did you cheat? When we had sex in the last couple of months, who were you thinking about, Paul or me? How often have you lied to me in the last couple of months? How many affairs have you had? Do you still love me? I reminded her, you have a meeting tomorrow at 9, and if you get through this without any major surprises, we have an appointment with a marriage counselor for Saturday morning at 10. Mia sat and cried as she went through the questions. I can answer them now if you want, she said. I think I'll wait until tomorrow, I told her. I just don't trust you anymore and I want to start all over again without any lies, if you don't mind. I wasn't thrilled with all her answers, but in my mind she passed. Do I trust her? Hell no. Do I plan to stay with her? Well, the jury is still out, but we're working on it. The worst part is that we haven't made love for the last 5 months, and that's what I really miss. We have sex once or twice a week to relieve tension, so to speak, but it's not the same thing. Paul transferred to Flint, Michigan. Last year, I mailed him a Christmas card from Florida with the message, "Glad you're not here." Meanwhile, his wife and children stayed here. Looks like the sunny South triumphed over the unfaithful husband. Go figure.